Welcome everyone to this week's video. Today we are on Fish Friday number 60 and we have a really good one for you today. Today we are going to be talking about a fish that is extremely popular in North America. A lot of people love to fish for this. They think it tastes delicious. I agree with him. Today we are going to be talking about the lake trout. The lake trout. Sorry, I had to fix my stuff. So, lake trout, or scientific name, Salvelinus namikush. Again, that is Salvelinus namikush. It is part of the family Salmonidae, which, if you can imagine, is the salmon and trout family. It is only native to the northern parts of North America. Think Canada and Alaska. That's where it is native. And I say only native because they have been introduced all over the world. As many popular recreational fish have been, they've been introduced everywhere. They are in Europe, they're in South America, they're in Asia. They have been spread all over. A little interesting fact that I found is that they were introduced legally into Yellowstone Park's lakes, Shoshone, Lewis, and Heart Lakes, and they were introduced in the 1890s. So they were introduced into 3 lakes in the national park, very legally, on purpose, in the 90s. However, they were illegally or accidentally introduced into Yellowstone Lake in the 1980s. And they're now considered extremely invasive in that lake. So it's very interesting how you can, how a species can be purposeful and good in other lakes in the same park, and yet be very invasive and have problems in another lake. The reason why is they began to feed on the native Yellowstone cutthroats, which are a very important part of the food chain. They support bear populations, eagle populations. They just support everything. So the Yellowstone cutthroat is really important. So through the early 2000s, because of the lake trout introduction, cutthroat populations plummeted. They went down to just, it was estimated to just 10% of their historic number. So lake trout basically wiped out 90% of the population. Aggressive, there was a lot of eradication, gill nets, electroshocking, support of recreational angling was put into place, and it does seem to have turned the tide. There does seem to be there, but you can see here, if you get a bunch of these fish going after a smaller fish, it can cause a death. So, something else about these are a very large fish. In fact, they are the largest of the chars, which is what this fish technically. The record lake trout weighed 102 pounds, 46 kilograms, with a length of 50 inches, 130 centimeters. It's a big fish, really big fish. Now that fish was netted, so it wasn't legally, or I shouldn't say that, it wasn't officially the world record of fish. The largest, according to IGFA, which is the organization that actually handles recreational world records, according to IGFA, the record is 72 pounds, which is 33 kilograms, with a length of 59 inches, so 100 centimeters. That was caught in 1995, actually. So you can imagine, with records weighing like that, it is very common, or I wouldn't say, it's not too big of a surprise if you catch a lake trout that weighs between 15 and 40 pounds. So, 6.8 to 18.1 kilograms. Those fish are not uncommon. Still big and still a prize fish, but they are not that uncommon. In terms of how you identify this fish, as you can see here, you got some light spots on a dark background. spots and the background do get lighter as it goes to the back of the fish. It just kind of blends out. A dark dorsal fin. Something about salmon and trout, they have this adipose fin, which is a fleshy fin. Then their lower fins are almost always orangish red with a white edge on there, and you can see that even here. Really see it on here, these white edges, really orange fins with this bright white edge. Relatively unique. Then you have this really forked caudal fin, which is not actually that common in salmon and trout. Normally they have a rounded or a squared off caudal fin, which is the caudal fin is the tail fin. Now, in terms of where these live in very cold, oxygen-rich waters. They're found in open water during summer months, and they're usually living at depths between 20 and 60 meters. So think 65 to 200 feet deep. So they're not a shallow fish. They are a very slow-growing fish, really late to mature, actually. They don't reach sexual maturity, meaning that they can reproduce, until they're about 6 or 7 years old. But more often than not, they live for over 25 years. And there are some lake trout that have been recorded to live more than 60 years. So these can live a long time, but it takes about 6 to 7 years before they can actually physically enhance the population. Because they are so late to maturing, there is as I've said, there is a big recreational fishery. People love to fish for them. There used to be a huge commercial fishery. That has since taken a downside because they have actually plummeted in numbers. In fact, over commercial fishing and the introduction of the sea lamprey into the Great Lakes really caused a crash in the lake trout population. This right in the 1930s to the 1960s. That's when the lake trout really caught. They have started to come back, but a professor at the university up there, I can't remember which, Dr. Kitchell, he said that the removal or really reducing the amount of commercial fisheries, and there is a ton of sea lamprey eradication efforts going on in the Great Lakes, is crucial for the recovery of the lake trout. His direct quote is, "Looking at what has happened in the lake and the results of computer simulations, it is clear that lamprey control needs to continue if Lake Superior is lake trout." So lampreys apparently are a big deal. But you can see here, people love to fish for them. And recreational fishing, when done properly and not done overdone, is a great way to enhance a fishery. Once again, you can see orange fin, white edge. That's very common. Just bam, it's your thing. So now the fun fact about this fish. This fish actually has 2 different sort of feeding methods. The big ones that people catch are usually piscivorous, meaning they eat other fish, including smaller lake trout. But there are some lake trout that adopt a planktivorous eating strategy, meaning that they eat plankton. Think whales, they actually will eat the plankton. Lake trout in planktivorous population grow much more abundantly, they grow extremely slowly, and they mature at very small sizes. And they seem to prefer that method. In the lakes that don't have the deep water forage, meaning deep water plankton, that's when the lake trout actually become piscivorous. They eat fish. So when there is no plankton down low, they will just adapt to the next best thing, which is piscivory. And piscivorous lake trout grow much more quickly. They mature at a much larger size and are much less abundant. So they're growing bigger, they're eating more, but they're not actually as, their populations are not as big. But the interesting fact, on top of that interesting fact, is if you ignore the differences in abundance, the density of the lake trout in the lakes is actually very similar in similar lakes, regardless of whether the lake trout population is planktivorous or eating plankton or piscivorous, eating fish. So it's an interesting sort of balancing act that whether this fish eats plankton or it eats fish, if it's in a similar lake, remember the plankton trout, they grow more numerous, but they don't grow as big. And the fish-eating ones grow bigger, but they're not as abundant. So it's actually extremely similar. The density of the fish, how much weight of that fish is in that lake, it sort of balances out, almost right on the money. It's actually incredibly. But thank you guys so much again. I really appreciate it. And if I don't, please be safe. Have a great day. Please leave a like, comment, and subscribe if you do. I'd really appreciate it. Hope to see you again. Take care of yourselves. Take care of your loved ones. And